Do you ever wish you could go back and talk to yourself and say, don't do that, do this? So this is some of the things that I wish I knew 5, even 10 years ago. It would have saved me a lot of time and a lot of money. If you're new here, my name is Bobby. Never underestimate the power of a good skincare regimen. All makeup looks better on your best skin. So when I started having a good skincare regimen, my rosacea, my dry skin, all looked better, and all makeup looks better on that better skin. And a bonus tip, before you go in with your foundation, wait at least 5 minutes after you've done your skincare and your SPF, because your skincare will just meld in with whatever it is you're putting on your face. When I figured out that my skin was a neutral undertone, game changer. So everybody has a natural undertone to your skin. You could be warm, or you could be cool, or you could be neutral, which is a kind of combination of the both. Now, I have rosacea, so you would think that I have a red undertone, but rosacea is a skin condition. It is not my actual undertone. So I try to focus on finding things that are neutral. Most foundations, most concealers, most makeup in general will tell you what its undertone is. C for cool, W for warm, N for neutral. If you aren't sure what you are, you may want to go and get a professional to look at your skin to find that out. I will link a couple sources below what to look for when you're looking for your own undertone. Okay, I have dry skin, and as I've been getting older, it's even drier. So one of the game-changing things I learned was I can add hydration into my foundation to make it just be a little bit more hydrating. My favorite is to add an oil. My favorite is from The Ordinary, and it's the organic rosehip seed oil. It's got a good slip to it. It's not too thick. It's not sticky. It just blends in beautifully to any foundation I have ever used it with. I put it on a plate. I actually use a candle plate, and I just put my foundation in first, add a drop or two of the oil and mix it in with my finger, and then go in and put it on your face like normal. And it just adds that little bit more of hydration. Now in the summer, I don't use it at all. But in the dead of winter, when I'm just so struggling, it has helped so much. Okay, when I figured out that my favorite way of applying foundation was by a brush first and then a sponge, that made a huge difference. But when I have dry skin, the only thing I'll use is a sponge. Here's why. So if I'm using a brush, I'm taking it, and let's say I've got some flaky skin around my face. I'm taking this and I'm rubbing it on my face. It could pick up that dry skin and deposit the foundation under it. That never looks good, because now you've got foundation, flaky skin, foundation, flaky, it just piles on. It looks abysmal. So when I have that dry skin, game changer when I learned this was to put my foundation with a sponge, and it kind of just makes it adhere to my face instead of it going underneath that skin. Now, if I'm not dealing with dry skin, I will go ahead and I will use my brush first, apply it by a pouncing motion, and then go ahead and buff it in, and then a sponge to kind of disperse it a little bit better. And my favorite way to end it is by using this kind of sponge. This is from Stands Out Beauty. This is one of my favorites. It just kind of absorbs it, and it kind of just smooths it out onto my face. So when I use foundation, I usually have all 3 of these. Okay, let's talk about concealers. Again, skincare matters here. I'll do my regular skincare, but my under eye, I will do a light moisturizer, because I don't want too much moisturizer or too much heaviness under my eyes. If I am dealing with very dry under eye, I will not even use a concealer on those days. It just always looks drier and crepier and just unattractive. What I will do on those days is, as I'm working in my foundation, I will work my foundation up just a tiny bit underneath my eyes, just to blend it out and just disguise a little bit. But I mean a tiny bit. Don't take your foundation brush or your sponge and work it underneath there. These fibers will get a little bit onto my under eye, but it really is not pushing a lot of foundation under there. So you've now done your concealer. and you look in and you're like, oh my heart, it's all peeling. For me, it's my left eye. I don't know why. So I learned to correct this. So this is the Tatcha Serum Stick, but this is pretty pricey. But you're gonna use this a long time. This says that you can go ahead and just swipe it under your eye. Not a fan of that. I think it does disrupt my under eye, like the concealer or foundation and things. So what I do is I'll just take my finger and just take it and dab it underneath my eye. I'm gonna take this with me and just throw it in my purse or my bag. This has saved me from having really crusty under eyes. Okay, learning to correct my under eye has also been a major game changer. I know we're all different, but I'm just telling you guys what has worked for me. I'm pretty blue in the corners of my eyes. Before I go in with foundation, I will go in with a peach color corrector and I will use that in the corners of my eyes. Then I will go in with foundation. Sometimes, depending on the foundation, depending on my eyes at that point, that's all I need. Sometimes I do need a concealer. So the order is correct. So the peach corrector, I'll put my foundation on. I'll usually get my foundation a little bit under there just to like marry that into there so it's not just this line of demarcation. You don't want that either. Then I look at myself and I'm like, I really need a concealer. I'm looking kind of sad. I will go in with a concealer and then I will go with another layer of foundation, but a very thin one. So then I'll go in with my sponge onto my candle plate again, get a little bit of the remainder and just blend that in with the rest so it all just kind of blends together. And that has worked the absolute best for me. So another way that I have found with concealers that works really well for me is to actually use a thicker concealer instead of a more serumy. So case in point, here is one that's very popular. This is from House Labs. It's loose. It's not a real thick concealer. Loose, I don't know, it's not loose, but you know what I mean. It's not extremely thick. I have found that one of the best ones for me is actually a thick one. So one that I love is from Fiera. It's extremely thick. And at first I was like, this is no way gonna work. But this works amazing. And it's because once you've gotten it in place, it stays there. It doesn't move constantly. Do you have to set it? Yes, you do. The key to Fiera is to use such a little amount. You do not need a lot with this. So this little tube is going to last you a long time. That's fine to use a brush and get it into place. And then kind of let it sit for a couple minutes. Go and do something else. Let it sit 30 seconds. It doesn't, not a long time. Then go in with your finger or your brush and just smooth it out. Then your body warms it up and it just blends beautifully. And you can use your finger, your brush, you can even use your sponge. I like to pinch my sponge and do it like that. You can also get a little baby sponge. So here's the big one, here's the small one. This is from Real Techniques and it's made to go underneath your eyes. You can also get one of those, but it doesn't really matter what you use. Honestly, find the thing that works best for you. Let your under eye sit for a while. All concealers, as far as I'm concerned, they will just go ahead and gather in with my eyes because they're moving and I have like lines vertical here that will just have it all gather in there. I let it go ahead and do that. Just let it go, gather where it's going to do. Then take your sponge or your brush or whatever it is that you use, take it and move it out of that area. So I will actually move my eye a little bit open and just kind of open up those wrinkles and push and let your sponge do the work and soak it all up. Then go in with the powder. I usually do not need to go in with more powder throughout the day unless I'm using a concealer that just doesn't work for me. Use very little powder. You do not need a lot. And I'll take my puff and push the powder underneath. Game changer. It just sets that concealer right in place. Another game changer is figuring out that pressed powder is the best powder for me. I think that has something to do with the fact that I have dry skin. A pressed powder is easy for me to control. When I had a loose powder, I would just maybe it's just me, I would get it everywhere. Like, it's just not my favorite. I really like to be able to just use a powder puff and I can direct it exactly where I want it to be, and I don't have to worry about powder going anyplace else. I will say I've been showing you with a powder puff, but a brush can also work just as fine. So getting that into your pressed powder, opening up those gills and press that into your under eye. Absolutely works just as fine. I don't know if you've had this happen, but I have this happen way too much. Sometimes I will put my foundation on and then later I will see that it's kind of gathered into my daughter calls these the rivers going across your forehead. So my forehead lines. And because I have dry skin, I don't get oil in there. It dries, literally crusty. So no amount of a sponge, even a wet sponge going in trying to disperse it's gonna work. It's set in place. What do I do at that point? I use a toothbrush. And this is a very soft, bristled brush. I got this at the Dollar Tree. You could use a children's brush, but make sure it's soft. You don't wanna scratch yourself. So I literally will take my finger and I will lift up, kind of open up those forehead lines and just kind of brush across those lines, and you will literally take all of that extra foundation and it'll be gone. As I learned to do my eyebrows. Eyebrows make a huge difference. If you don't know a good shape for your eyebrows, it is worth your money to go get them professionally done. Find somebody that is reputable, get some ideas from other people. You can go into Ulta. Benefit has they have a brow bar. I honestly don't know how good they are. I think that's totally dependent on where you live and the person doing it. You might want to go to a professional makeup artist who knows how to do brows. Well worth your money. Get them done professionally. Have her or him teach you the best way to do it. And then you've got a good starting point for your brows. One thing that I learned to do is I literally tweeze my eyebrows anytime I do my makeup. The first thing I do is I will just get stragglers. I'm not shaping them or anything like that. I'm getting the ones that are like down here, the ones that are over here, and you know, just ones that are clearly outside of where I would want my eyebrows to be. I also will trim them. One thing that I learned big time is don't trim your eyebrows just in a straight line across. So don't brush them up. Take your scissors and go across. It just doesn't look natural. Nobody's eyebrows are perfectly straight across, and you want them to look relatively natural. So what I do is I push them up and I'll just cut long hairs here and there. The ones that are just going crazy that you see, just cut those. So before I go in with my brow products, game changer is to clean my eyebrows. Oh my heart, why have I not been doing this my whole entire adult life? Either I'll use the washcloth that I use, like I usually when I've washed my face, I'll take that washcloth to my makeup table and then I use that to just wipe my hands off as I'm cleaning, you know, general cleanup as you're doing your makeup. I might take that, put it in my finger and go ahead and rub it across my eyebrows. Another thing you could do is to use something like a micellar cleansing water. You don't even have to rinse this off. I will either take this and put it on a cleansing pad like this and then use that cleansing pad to go across my eyebrows. Or I've even used like just a Q-tip. Get it on the Q-tip and then rub that across. It's key that you need to let this dry. But I have seen a huge difference in my eyebrows when I realized that what it was doing was I would take my brow pencil and it would mix in with my skincare and my foundation. Even if I tried to avoid my eyebrows, you still get it on some parts of it. And it would pill, it would kind of blend instead of sitting where I put it. Game changer, clean your eyebrows off. A brow game changer to me was learning to brush my brow hairs down when I'm doing the arch portion of my eyebrows. If I don't push them down, then I really am not getting the brow product onto my skin. I'm just putting it on my hair. Once I get the shape and everything filled in, then I brush my brow hairs back up again. Then I go under my brow and fill in any sparse areas with my brow pencil. After I've done my brow pencil, I always go in with a brow powder. My favorite is this one from Sigma. It's the Brow Duo. If the brow pencil doesn't set really well, this brow powder will set it. It'll fill in any areas that my brow pencil didn't get into, and it just makes my brows look more finished. Of course, when I'm done with my brows, adding a gel that will hold them in place is a game changer. My brows have this tendency to just droop down. So my favorite is a clear brow gel because then I don't have to worry about where the color is going. Adding the clear brow gel at the end makes them stay in place all day. One of the things that made the most difference for me was figuring out the perfect eyeshadow combination for my skin and my eyes. Since I have a neutral undertone, I always look for eyeshadow or eyeshadow palettes that have a more neutral undertone. So my absolute favorite eyeshadow palette is the Tartelette in Bloom by Tarte Cosmetics. If you look closely at the palette, it actually has a more neutral undertone. It doesn't have a real warm, and it's not actually that cool. So when you figure out your undertone, it's so much easier to even figure out the best eyeshadow colors for you. So when I look at eyeshadow palettes or eyeshadow singles, I'm always looking for a more neutral undertone. A lot of the times I will do just an all over color. So one of my favorites is the Pericomb ND. This is just a very light eyeshadow. Like, it's not dark at all. It's very neutral. It's not extremely opaque, but it just evens out my eye, like the discoloration or veins and all that. It just kind of evens it all out. Many times that's all I use. Another one could be the MAC Paint Pot. This is in the color Painterly. This is much thicker. It looks really nice on. When I figured out that made my eyes look so much younger, so much brighter, and it made my eye look complete, even if I wasn't really doing a look. Okay, I was very tempted, like anybody else, that I needed to learn how to do eyeliner. And I have just come to the conclusion that eyeliner does not look good on me, and I'm okay with that. One of the things that I really like to do is first, I will use an eyeshadow powder. So usually whatever eyeshadow palette or whatever I'm using, I will use one of the darker colors, not black or anything, but one of the colors that I used up here, I will use down here. You can actually see it on my eyes here. That's eyeshadow. That's not an eyeliner. But it gives me that look, but much softer. I have very small eyes. When I smile, they just get smaller. It's the way I was created. Another thing I do, which I actually didn't do today, I will tightline. And tightlining will just bring out the bold eyelashes without adding that eyeliner. You know what I mean? When I tightline, I try to get it really close to my eyelash line, and I will give that really dark line. It makes my eyes pop, and I love the look. So that's something you can play with. I have done 2 videos where I exhaust all the different, maybe not all of them, but the majority of all drugstore eyeliners. And I do dabble in a couple of high-end as well, showing which ones are best for tightlining. And there were 3 that stood out. So I will link those 2 videos below. I took off my lipstick to demonstrate my next point. Finding your best nude lipstick. Game changer. Now, I guess the question would be, why do you want it to be almost the same color as your lips? Don't you want it to stand out? Actually, I don't. I just want my lips to look finished. I don't want them to look dry or blah. And as I get older, my lips kind of are getting blaher, if that's a word. They just start to like diminish the line here. They just kind of look more mousy. I don't think even mice have lips. So finding the one that would be almost your color of your lips, but maybe just a little bit better, maybe a shade darker, game changer to me. So this one is actually from Sephora. It's their own brand, so it's actually not that expensive. You would think that that's actually kind of dark, and it actually doesn't even swatch well. But this is one of my favorite lip colors, because if you look, the top, now I know I don't have a lot on my top lip. I don't have a lot of top lip. It's almost the same color. And I love this because it just kind of blends in. It's not like I walk in the room and people are going, ooh, look at the lipstick. I want them to see me, not necessarily my lipstick. Okay, I also believe that there are certain products that I believe every woman over 50 should have in her arsenal of beauty products. So I did a video on that. I'm gonna link it right here so you can go to that. I'll see you maybe in this one or another one. God bless.